kind of started on this venture a long time ago. I hurt myself as a high school athlete. I was going to play in college for baseball and tore my rotator cuff and kind of started this journey to understand why these things happen, understand the root causes about certain things. And so losing the ability to throw kind of made me want to throw again and get back to that. So I know some people have difficulty walking and disabilities in this category or any thing that they want to get back. And I think that's a really important thing to find out the why, some of the root causes, to go through some of these things mechanically, biomechanically. I've got a background in fitness and training. I started there. I was a personal trainer since I was 17 over at 24 Hour Fitness and figured one around that way. And then I attended school for my doctorate over at Boston University. And stuck around in DC to do chronic pain, and so then I came back.
There's a lot of that there.
Yeah, there's a lot of that there, definitely. Mentally and physically. But yeah, so it's really exciting to come back and then kind of give back to the community. There's 3 versions of 3 editions of the newspaper back there. Feel free to grab them. I try to write weekly for the Notice. It's a free newspaper out there. I'm one of the health columnists there, and try to give as much information from my expertise as much as possible. So, and then I also do mobile or concierge physical therapy where I go to people's houses. So that's something if you're interested, you can talk to me after. If you know someone that might be interested, also a cool little thing to kind of branch my brand out and get out that way. But without further ado, we're going to talk about feeling young again with long life walking. Now, a lot of people, just a kind of a brief introduction of walking is, the best way to talk about walking, I think, is going back to how you learn how to walk. And how you learn how to walk is, in an article I wrote recently, is actually turning out to be more of a learned behavior. It's, we watched our parents go through this, and you as a child, unconsciously or consciously, you're trying to imitate the way they walk, the way they move. You'll find often that families walk the same. You ask why. Is it genetic, or is it nature nurture? And more often than not, it's been shown that it's more about nature, nurture. And so how you pick up something, there's 2 different ways, or a few different ways. For instance, is to go down and pick up something like this, or like this, or whatever. Some people have variations of all that, but you'll see families often adopting, or children adopting the habits of their parents. And I think that's something to keep in mind. And so we can change these things. It's not that that we are born with it, or like I had a bad hip, my grandmother had a bad hip, my mother had a bad hip. These things happen because there was a faulty walking pattern or movement pattern somewhere in that chain of growing up. And I believe from just reading and experience that it actually starts at infancy, and all these dysfunctions, they start happening roughly, once you're standing up. And once you're standing up, you're going to adopt, certain shifts, certain weight shifting. And we're going to talk about that in the next few slides, but how to change that and break that habit. But you got to do this repetitively. You guys have been walking, for this amount of time, a long time, and so it's kind of something you have to be conscious of. So you kind of go over it and choose a habit that kind of is a good foundation. You want to build up on that foundation and just keep practicing and practicing and practicing until you learn to do it. And so it's kind of, like I said, so the first step towards that fountain of youth. There's no magic pill, but the more efficient you walk, the more you're going to strengthen the right muscles and decrease the areas of pain. Things get off axis in our joints, our hips, our knees, and if these things are affecting us, then we're going to break down quicker. So our hips, just a little background on the weight that goes into our hips, is 3 times our body weight. So for every pound that you've gained, it's 3 times. And so every pound at your knee is 7 times. So that, and then at your ankle, about 27 times. And if you're not strong enough there, then you're going to also break that down also. So, there's a few exercises in the back. We'll kind of look over if there's time, in the end. I had given Lindsay some brochures so she could print it out after, I think, and you guys can look over it and jot down notes after. So, like I said, walking is probably the most repetitive thing in our body. Ideally, you're doing about 10,000 steps per day. That's what the American Heart Association recommends, which is about 3.5 to 4 miles. Not many of us are walking that, but that's okay. I think, like I said, if you're walking with better quality, in the end, you're doing a lot more service for yourself than quantity. I'd rather have quality than quantity, and that's what we're going to go into. How'd that sound? Good. All right, let's see, next slide. So, like I said, walking, if you're doing everything correctly, will add years to your life and your body. This chart right here shows, it's very interesting. This is a group that goes 8 miles, 1 to 2 miles, and then less than 1 mile. And that's this is their mortality percentage. And just by walking more than a mile a day, you can see that it's, this is the 8 mile group, and but that's already good enough to, decrease yourself from this group. And there's not that much change after that, in terms of, more, something like 20% less. If you don't walk, more than a mile a day, then you've got 20% higher risk of mortality or dying early. And I think, as you guys true testament of that, of living well and being active, you can see that there's some truth to it, some merit to it. Now, basically, the whole point of this slide really is just don't be a couch potato. I think that's the main point of this. Now, go ahead and hit the next one. The next one is just the benefits of walking. I think this is some repetitive stuff, but it's a good reminder. You have some things like losing weight, decreasing stress in your body, kind of increasing those endorphins, healthy hormones, or neurotransmitters in your brain, keeping down the chances of Parkinson's. Diabetes is a big one for the population. Decreasing depression, anxiety as well, and I think some things like also the decreasing the risk of heart disease. And then arthritic pain. So if you're doing it correctly, once I said it, it's all about quality, not necessarily the quantity that matters for this pain and whatnot. So any of us know the consequences of walking poorly?
You go to the assumption that we're not walking properly.
No, I'm just saying, just in a general. Just say, not going into the assumption that you're walking properly or improperly. But let's go to the consequences of, Lindsay, hit the next one. Consequences of walking incorrectly. A lot of the times is, we talk about falls, and for this population, it's one of the highest things. 1 out of 3 adults after 65. Women are more likely than men to, incur a lot of these serious injuries. A lot of them start happening at the, there's concussions, broken wrists, hips, and as well as ankles, upper hand stuff, because you're reaching out to grab yourself. Now there's in 2007, 90% of falls resulted in hip fracture. That's something like 264,000 hip fractures in that year, and it's only gone up since then. Basically, if you account diet and those things, bone density going lower, a lot of these processed foods. That's another topic, another day. But these things are affecting us a lot more these days, and so being aware of how you're doing it is really going to be important. Lindsay, next slide. Reducing the risk for falls, and these are some easy steps to really think about, because a lot of people don't consider the factors of why we fall and how we can fall, and that's not just balance. Because if you look in a physical therapy, if you go through a physical therapy book, balance is actually the apex of our falling, or so you need the structure, you need the foundation at the bottom to kind of work its way up to this balance. Balance takes in so many things: vision, takes in, you know, the way your strength, your ability to be strong, and you know, sometimes there's just things in your vestibular system, the ear, the inner ear, can really affect your balance. So it's a multi-systems thing, this balance thing. You can't just say, let's just improve balance. You need to work on every little bit, get your eyes checked. Prescription has a lot to do with, you know, I would say going to your, you know, some kind of pharmacist that really understands, or MD that understands all the different medications, how they're affecting your balance, or, you know, your dizziness, or even making you even slightly lightheaded is enough to create these opportunities for falls, or risk for falls. So eye exams, you know, and then getting the strength, like I said, is really important. You know, I would say the best people to go to is the physical therapist. You know, we have to understand the biomechanics and what muscles need to be strengthened, really specializing there than just the global thing. You can just say balance or balance exercise where you're holding, but if you're not strong enough, how are you going to be able to do that? And that's one of the thoughts. Home safety, really important. Clutter, you know, and night lights, those are also things that, you know, affect your vision, and so those, you know, most things, as you know, really start happening close to home. Those when most of our injuries occur, and then applying what this technology or this technique here today, I think is a good way, is a good first step to get in there. So it's next slide. All right, so long life walking is a technology for health or is a technique for health and longevity. It's just an interesting thing because we're going to talk about the implications of walking kind of on an Eastern medicine way in the next coming slides. But I'm going to have everyone go ahead and push your chairs aside. I think, and stand up, and we're going to do some demonstration and practicing and rehearsal, which is kind of cool, really get us there. So if you just want to push these aside and have you stand up, kind of, you know, right around here.
You want to stand?
Yeah, I want you to. Yeah, I'm going to have you participate, unless you know you're feeling like you.
I want to try it too.
Yeah.
I'm sure I'm doing it wrong.
Yeah, outside.
You'll get old too.
Yeah, all right.
Eventually.
So what I tell patients, I'm going to move this back here. What I tell patients is how you set up your posture is essentially how you're going to walk. If you're already sitting back here, the chances of you walking this way are pretty good. So setting yourself up for success, or the foundation, is really important for walking. So that's kind of the main baseline, to understand that. And if you know, got a wide base of support, if you got a narrow base of support, most often than not, these are going to happen. So really setting yourself up over your center of gravity. Now we can talk about, briefly about that. I don't have a slide on that quite yet, but what we're going to do is, go ahead and take the next slide. A lot of it is actually right here. Is our center of gravity, our belly button. So a lot of people here, or they sit back here, you want to be able to kind of do both. So what I tell people is, if you take your sternum or chest bone, and then you take your tailbone back here, you want to just kind of lower both. And that sets you a little bit more over your center of gravity. If you think about your feet, so if you think about your feet, you want to be, this is your foot. 3 points I always tell people is your big toe, your little toe, and the middle of your heel. If you can distribute your weight on both sides to about a third on each, then that's already, you know, we're moving towards that better initiation. So some of you might feel like you're pitching forward already, and it's just habit, because you know you've been living back here, or you're living back here for some time. It's really important to just find that weight shifting and being right over, because that'll decrease the effort in your joints. So do you have any questions you want me to run by and see how you guys are doing on that? So yeah, this is kind of the basics. This is where we want to start. Next slide. All right, so before we start, then it's really important to breathe, and it's also drawing that abdominal muscle, or pulling that belly button in. You just want to pull that in a little bit, and that also kind of adds to the whole idea of being a little bit more on, in balance with our feet and our head over our body. All right, the next slide. Yeah. So, okay, before you ever walk, everyone thinks about walking in a few ways. They always think about kind of like how soldier marches, this left, right, right. It's where our muscles have to pull our legs. I want you guys to throw that old kind of paradigm or that philosophy out and think about pushing. And so this is why I have all these like red arrows saying squeeze your buttocks. You want to squeeze your buttocks. Because just right where you are, you can put one leg forward if you want, and you're just going to squeeze that back leg. That back leg is really important because if you're going to squeeze, you're going to propel. You're going to push that front leg forward. So go ahead, let's just do that right now. Just put one leg forward, and I want you to just think about squeezing, being able to squeeze and just take that first step and then come back.
Are you supposed to bend your knee?
You can, but
you're not. In this scenario, you're not.
Yeah, this scenario, this is just a demonstration. So just go ahead and do that. You should, if you want. I have patients walking with their hands on their butts. Really important. Right here. You want to try it?
Okay.
Yeah. Put your hand right here. Okay, and then you're gonna push. So you want to push right here through your buttocks. Right here. You can go a little lower. Right there. So you should feel that contraction. A lot of times, when people are falling or they're a little bit hunched over, as you see, you're not going to be using that butt muscle. And this is really important. If you forget anything else about this lecture, just remember this one. That's the key, really. You just remember to push with your butt because that's going to propel you forward. If you're down here like this, like I said, you're pulling, and when you're pulling, your chances of falling forward are greater because these muscles are only going to contract at a certain time, and then you lose your balance, and then you're on the floor. So pushing. Any questions on that? So does it seem interesting enough that you got to push, right? So pushing forward is better than pulling forward, and I can't emphasize this enough because that's just going to drive that back leg. So I would say the front leg that comes from the pushing is very passive. You're going to kind of drive that forward, and this kind of just comes along for the ride. Yeah. It's changing that thought process and really going over it and rehearsing this over and over and over. I can't suggest this enough. I've done this tens and hundreds of thousands of times to make it more natural, but that's why these butt muscles are here. This is one of our biggest lower body muscles in our body, and we got to use it, for stairs, for walking, for balance. This is essential. Like I said, that 3 times your body weight comes to your hip, and if you don't have this foundation, then all the others are going to get affected. Okay, next slide. All right. So back to the feet, and I talked about this. We got these 3 points, but the main point is actually, if you think of that vector, that triangle, this, and this, it's going to be somewhere around here. Now, this is a very interesting fact. Looked at some Chinese medicine books, but this is our Yongchen, and that's basically our kidney meridian. Our kidney meridian is actually the meridian. So this pressure point is the meridian for energy and longevity. So it's the first point up here. If you go all the way around, it goes around your ear, but it's actually the first point. And so basically it's kind of like a button, and you're going to end up so this is basically, you're going to push with your buttocks, you're going to end up on that point right here, that little button in the front leg. That's your Yongchen, and that's where you want to transfer that weight into, because you're basically going to activate that kidney meridian pressure point every time, and that's going to stimulate, for whether you believe in Eastern medicine or not, that ability to kind of activate that kidney meridian for energy. And that's why I said, you're going to feel a little bit younger if you keep doing it accurately, and you're not always walking on your toes. But a lot of times you're not going to hit this point if you're using flip-flops or sandals, and also high heels. So that's just something to think about, because if you're in high heels, you're never going to hit that button. So that's that spot. So you want to really activate that if you think about it in a multi-medical sense. Very fascinating.
Justin?
Yes.
In terms of shoes, are sneakers best or barefoot best or?
So, great question. So in terms of shoes, you know, there's all this like rocker stuff out there. Actually, those are causing injuries. I don't know if you've read, but Skechers have been getting sued about those. So you want to avoid those. I would say just for you know our general population, I think either the like the New Balances. I have Brooks. You know, these are really good. I would say the running type of shoe is probably the best. You know, running shoe is going to be constructed a lot better. Actually, I put a video out there on my website about how to find the right shoe. You can check that out on my website. So you can grab my card at the end and then check that out. I put videos. So it's definitely interesting to investigate shoes because I ran track in college and I went through tens of thousands of shoes trying to find the right shoe. I ended up having shin splints and you know this is before pre-knowledge of all the schooling I had. And now it makes all sense why you know certain things work, and the running shoe is just what I chose to do the best of. And it's not as stylish, but in the end, like I said, you know we're always looking for quality.
So this isn't medical, but New Balance is the only shoe that's made in the United States anymore.
Oh, that's great, and that's really important. Actually, in my video, I talk about manufacturing. So the design of the shoe may be really good, and I kind of go over how to assess it, but the design of the shoe may be appropriate by the company, but then it gets sent to a third world country where the manufacturing of the actual shoe may not come out to you know quality standards. So things I show you on the video that things tend to rock on the shoe and you know makes things really unstable, which sets you up for faults. So that's also kind of your environment. What you put on your body is your environment, and what you hold, backpacks, purses. Those things really change that. So, you know, like I said, you always want to hit that button. That's the kidney meridian. Really fascinating. Let's go to the next slide. Just talk about that. So, you know, it goes up here and right down here and goes all the way up and, you know, goes towards that, you know, this, if you look at it on both sides, it's, you know, going to go through your heart. So, all right, which gives you more, like I said, more energy, gives you more power. And that's what we want. Looking for, right? Next slide. All right, so there's a fascinating thing. When you activate this button here, the soleus muscle, this is now going back to Western medicine, the soleus muscle is activated. Now, did any of you know the importance of the soleus muscle? Soleus muscle is the only extensor, or only knee extensor in standing of our body. So everyone thinks it's your knees, but our knees actually don't keep us from falling. It's actually this muscle alone. So if you're not getting to that point, you're not activating the soleus muscle. It's the only one in our body, and most people aren't even getting to that. So, thank you. So most people aren't even getting to this muscle because they're either, you know, how they set themselves up. So if you set yourself up like this and you're shuffling, you're never going to hit that, and you're never going to get this muscle to activate. But like I said, there's a reason people are falling if you look at these things. And this is the only thing, this is the only muscle in our body to keep us from falling. And that's it. There's only one. It's the soleus. So that's, you know, how important to set up your walking. You know, knee pain. A lot of people with knee pain also are. This muscle isn't activated. So if you look at some studies, that this muscle has been shut off. You know, it's been inhibited, and so then you end up recruiting different areas of the knee that really, you know, cause more pain and dysfunction. So switch to the next note. All right, so back to the soleus again. The soleus reflex weakens with age, and you know this is you got the young, elderly, and then this is just our step cycle. But you know this is where we're pushing off, and this is where you really need this reflex. So the younger folks versus the elderly folks. Now they didn't really. If you look at this study wasn't necessarily if they were walking correctly. It's just walking. So just everyone's choice of walking. So I would think it would go up if you were to pay attention to the quality of walking and having them instructed how to walk properly. I think those numbers would go up. But This is just it's an interesting, you know, fact.
How does this work
or
in terms
figure.
of your step? Like, can you show us when you step what this means?
Okay, yep, so heel contact. So if you look at the bottom line, your X graph, or X line, that's the heel contact, which is right when your foot is, or you know, you're landing here. So, you know, you're not going to get much soleus contraction or reflux here. So once you're, like I said, you're going to push with your back leg, and now you're going to slowly start ending, which is, you know, between numbers 5 and 6. That's when you got to hit that button. So between 5 and 6, you're hitting that button, that you know, that Yongchen point, and that's gonna shoot that up. You have to use this muscle. If you don't use it, like I said, you're gonna fall. You're gonna buckle. You're gonna collapse. Really, really interesting. And then you're gonna get to toe off, which is number 10, which is when I'm pushing off. So that's the cycle of that. Go ahead and switch. The next one. All right. So now we're gonna start doing some, you know, more preparatory walking, but you know, keeping everyone's like, how do I walk? Do I walk my, you know, feet turned out a little bit, feet turned in a little bit? Best way to walk is, it's probably like 1 degree out a little bit, but that's not much, but you're really gonna try to propel straight. If your vectors, yeah, good. If your vectors are going this way, then you're gonna have more of this wobbly medial lateral. This, like I said, goes back to setting up correctly. How do you set yourself up? And if you ask yourself that before you even start walking, you're like, okay, this is how I'm going to set myself up. I'm going to have it that way, and I want to direct my force forward, because then there's no wasted energy to other directions. And you don't have to fight this wobbly feeling. So you're going to try to push, and you're going to try to, you know, push with that buttocks. Like I said, you're going to squeeze and push off. Squeeze and push off. You guys go ahead and try it right now. Just kind of take a few steps. It's going to feel weird, because you're squeezing with your buttocks, and then you want to hit that point. Remember that Yongchen point. Good. Good. Interesting. Any questions? Any different things you're feeling? What you should feel like starting to happen is that you're gliding on the ground, and not necessarily hitting your foot on the ground, but you're using the ground as a way to propel. That's kind of what I want you guys to start taking notice of and being aware about. Trying to push. You know, think about pushing.
Well, you were talking about this muscle below the knee.
Yeah, soleus.
Yeah. Should we feel like we're tensing that up a little
It
bit?
should happen naturally. Once you've gotten yourself over, once you've gotten your weight over, that's a good, very good question. Once you've gotten your weight over it, it's gonna kick in. It's an automatic response. It's a reflex.
So you don't have to face
Yeah, you don't have to think about it. All I want you to think about is your butt. You know, think about that. So all I always ask my patients to do is push, and you know, I put my hands right here, and don't be ashamed. I mean, I have patients walking out in their neighborhoods with their hands on their buttocks so they don't fall. I mean, that's really one of the keys. If you got to do this, then do it. By all means, don't be ashamed. You know, have no shame in doing this, but you really have to think about getting your weight transfer over that point, that Yongchen point. Any questions? No, it feels different, right?
I was enjoying unconscious walking till now.
now it's mindful walking.
Yeah,
I should change this.
I thought that was my last place I
But that's really
true. That's what it does. It makes you mindful of what you're doing.
Exactly. You want to hit that point, but that's a great question. You don't have to contract that soleus or calf muscle quite as much. Just think about pushing. Just think about letting your body propel itself. So there's a great line in, I think there's a running book or something like that, I forgot a long time ago, but it's basically running or walking, I can translate that to walking, is falling and catching ourselves. And if you think about that, then that's the best way. You've got that little bit of lean. Next.
It's a balance.
Yeah, it is. And so this is that 1 degree forward. That's gonna, by pushing here, you're gonna actually force yourself to be like just slightly forward. And by doing that, now all you have to do is just push. You can propel instead of braking. A lot of people that fall backward or whatnot, they end up with their foot too far forward or their heel too far forward, and then they're pushing themselves back. So a lot of these people, after a stroke, they have what we call pusher's reflex, And that's because they don't know that they need to get their body over their center of gravity. So with stroke rehab, a lot of times you want to get that person's body and center of gravity over themselves, and then their muscles will relax, and it'll help them start getting their motion back again. It's really fascinating stuff. Yeah, keep walking if you want. Keep walking. This is the whole point of this lecture, is just to walk and feel it and be mindful. So the next thing is, the last thing start thinking about is arm swing. Now, how many of you watch the Olympics? You guys watch the Olympics, right? You see the runners, the elite runners. All of them are pumping their arms. So arm swing is really important. You've never seen a really fast world record sprinter without pumping his arms. So this is actually what we call a reciprocal action. So as our leg comes forward, our body is actually supposed to wind up and twist. So if you just focus on, and you don't have to focus on the twisting, all you have to focus on is letting your arms swing freely, like a pendulum, like this. So you do that, and now you've got a little bit more propulsion, and a little bit more lighter. You should be lighter on your feet. So kind of setting that up, but a lot of people are holding something all the time. Yeah, dog leash, whatnot. But if you can think about just swinging your arms and then squeezing your butt, I would say you already got your price of admission here. So this is basically the whole point of walking, and is being able to do that and get yourself. And it helps even, so all the little steps, the slides I mentioned before about 1 degree forward, all that all happens when you're doing arm swing and you're pushing and you're squeezing with your buttocks. Does that feel any differently? Any questions on that? You guys keep walking. I'm just recording. How's it feeling?
Good. It's conscious.
Yeah, it's very conscious walking. Good. Excellent, excellent, excellent. Great, great, great. Hit the next slide. And all of you guys should be smiling. That's their last step. Because it is conscious walking. And being that, you're gonna, you're gonna get this mind working, and hopefully you're gonna feel it. And it's not just, these falls happen because you're unconscious, because you're thinking about something else. You're on a cell phone. You miss a curve because you're not being cognizant of where you're going. And so, smiling and enjoying just walking and being present in walking itself is going to be the key.
Being more conscious of your arms really does help propel you.
It does. That's why I mentioned the sprinter, because I'm like, you never saw a sprinter run really fast and he doesn't move his arm. There's no such a thing. They're really pumping. And they're really
people walking.
Yeah, and I talk about, and with some of my rehab patients, I talk about getting walking sticks, because that actually forces you to think about pushing and using walking sticks all on its own. So that's not a bad option for balance too, for those that are concerned about balance. And so next slide. So this is basically the wrap up. This is the 10 steps. We can review it again. If you want to stand up, we can review all these 10 steps. Basically is, like I said, how you set everything up is really important. You're gonna, you want to get your center. You want to take that tailbone down, your sternum down, and drop it. You don't want it back here. You don't want it back here. You just want to be right on the center. Think about your foot positioning. That Yongchen point. That really is important. Those three, that little triangle: big foot, big toe, little toe, and your heel. And then so you're gonna remember to squeeze with your buttocks. That's key point number 1. And what that's gonna do is that's gonna throw that other leg forward passively. You don't have to force that leg to come forward. It's gonna happen. It's just gonna push, and then I'm there. I'm catching myself in a weird way. And then you want to get that your feet a little bit parallel, and then you're gonna have that slight lean. You're gonna swing your arms freely, relax your shoulders, but you don't want to be like this. It's like a pendulum. If you just do this all on its own, you got that relaxation, and then you just start, and you just push, and then you've got that. You're gonna have a quicker step, less tired. You're gonna be more efficient, and the chance of you injuring yourself is less, because what you're gonna do with the arm swing is you're gonna create a larger base of support, and with a larger base of support, it's harder to fall. Wider, right? But people think wider is this or this, but this is also wider in a different way, in a different plane. And so if you're doing this, you can catch yourself. If you're doing this, it's harder. And so, this goes back to falling and goes back to balance and all that. So strategy is really important here. And yeah, I think that's, go ahead, next slide. Yeah, so, this is kind of the little wrap up of what we're doing here. You want to get that soleus muscle reflex going. That's that Yongchen point, that kidney meridian. It's to step onto that point. If you don't get your weight onto that point, then, you're not going to get that energy, that circulation going through our body. That kidney meridian in Chinese medicine goes towards accumulating energy, kind of around here, and that's going to help you and make you feel a little bit better, bring those endorphins into your system. And just remember to walk with confidence and purpose. I think that's really the key. So switch to the next. This is where I'm located. It's off this little map somewhere around here. Like I said, I do rehab, all kinds of chronic pain, sports medicine, sports enhancement, and I lecture. And like I said, I do have a concierge mobile physical therapy kind of where I come to your house with my table and work on you. And so if you have any questions, we can talk about that. I have cards in the back and newspapers. And next slide. There I am. If you want to take down, that's also on my card, all this information. But I always say, even if you're not in pain, is an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. If you can get on top of this stuff, whether coming to lectures and learning more about your body, which is you guys have done great, coming here and just spread the news as they build. Hopefully, I'm going to build with them as Dan and Lindsay build. And I think that's the great part of it. And next. I always say we can and we'll get better together. And go ahead. Yeah, that's my pitch on my rehab revive. Yeah. Keep going next. And it's building something greater, and that's also another one of my little lines too. But it's I think Lindsay and Premier Recreations have done a great job. So I want to give them a hand there. And, try to spread that word because there's 3 of you guys, and as you can see, a lot of you benefit whether they have me or someone else come. I think that's really important, and it's hit the next slide. And it's just like I said, I think this is why you guys joined Emerald Bay, so building a community. So
I have a question.
Sure.
Sometimes I see people walking with weights, like 1 pound or whatever. And there is a concern if you're just walking, your upper body strength is not being enhanced too much. So what do you, now is that going to throw off your?
That will. So that's a very good question. Walking with arm, elbow weights, the whole idea is actually but that does change your biomechanics. Like I said, remember every pound you put on your body, so essentially you may be putting on 5 to 1, that's going to throw a lot of things off.
7 more on your ankles.
Yeah, 7 more on your knee, 27 on your ankles actually, so 27. And so, you can see that these things really start stacking up. I would heed against it and just do arm exercises separately, and that's kind of my professional recommendation, because you do want to be mindful of this, because if you're doing this, then I know people are trying to kind of get 2 birds with 1 stone, and they think it's going to help their walking, but yeah, they're not doing that arm swing, and when they're not doing that arm swing, they're locking their upper body up, and that's going to create less twisting at the waist, and then with less twisting, you get shorter strides, so on and so forth. This vicious cycle.
If you have the walking sticks, you are using your upper body
Yes.
to work.
Walking sticks.
If you
Exactly.
have the big walking sticks, you
Yes.
still.
Exactly. And walking sticks, I have a video on my website also about, I think, using walking sticks correctly too. Same idea, the same principles as just adding with the walking sticks and pushing a little bit and just getting yourself a little propulsion. Walking sticks can actually take up about, for people that are lower back pain or hip pain, if you're using it correctly, I think it decreases your pressure about 40%.
Wow.
So people knee pain, ankle pain, so on and so forth.
Where do you get them?
You can go to I buy them at Ross, or I go to Target, or
Big Five.
like 25, 30 bucks.
I think
I have them on the
Village-
site.
My dad used to build them.
I think the art village, there's one of the stores has them.
Yeah.
in there. I think it's like the leather store or something.
And I have like a little recommendation products on my website too that I worked through, Amazon. I can only get through, and I picked out some decent walking sticks for like $20, and they'll send it to you. Something.
Some friends of mine are walking on the Santiago de Compostela track. And one friend just bought collapsible walking sticks so that you can carry them
Oh,
on the
that's a good idea.
plane.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Those are perfectly fine too. As
Yeah.
long, it's gonna, with walking stick almost forces you to use your arms. And that's why I, as a part of rehab, I introduced that, as the beginning of walking correctly. So, any
So
questions?
you think that they actually help you?
Oh, I love it. I sell them in my store and, my little rehab store as well, and I carry them because I think it's good. It's a good intermedium to just free, walking, retraining that body because, I started walking this way probably like 3 or 4 years ago and really started changing things, and I wanted to teach it to people because I've partly created this method and used what I learned from other schools of thought and kind of put them together.